Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for your time. Please like this video if you find it informative. This week turned out to fit the dog days of summer here in the US. Like last week, there were more pictures of Artemis III launch preparations and Artemis IV SLS production milestones, but not much in the way of updates about when those missions will launch. When the previous NASA administration started stacking Artemis II, they said it would launch no later than April 2026. But that was the last mission that revolved around the readiness of exploration ground systems Orion and SLS only. NASA started stacking Artemis III early last month. So far, we have yet to learn of a launch date. The space agency has said mid-2027 or late 2027 or just 2027, but nothing specific. The new Artemis manifest puts the focus on the lunar landers, but we don't have any pictures or any new milestone dates for any HLS hardware. It's a similar situation with the ultimate goal of the decade, the first Artemis lunar landing on now Artemis IV. We know that the end of 2028 deadline will be here soon enough, but it's hard to tell if progress is fast enough to make that deadline that's now only a couple of years away. We're seeing some words and some glimpses of lunar landing mission progress, but what we're still waiting for are details about how much work is left and how close they are to their objectives. Right now, we can't tell how close or how soon. So far this decade, no news has not been good news. Another picture or two was also a reminder that we haven't seen the rest of the Artemis II footage in the last 3 months. We got some launch replays even during the mission, but the rest is still missing now 4 months after the launch. After Artemis I, NASA released a comprehensive set of launch replays 2 months afterwards. So the question now is if we'll see all the footage, and whether less isn't more, but like most of the time, less is just less. Early in the week, we got another visual update from NASA Kennedy Space Center Public Affairs on work by Exploration Ground Systems and prime contractor Amentum in the Rotation Processing and Surge Facility. They published imagery taken on July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, showing the unboxing of the two center segments, left and right, in the rotation building of the RPSF. This image shows an inspection of one of the motors after the shipping covers were removed. We usually focus on the field joint between two motor segments, but each one has a clevis on the forward or top end and a tang on the aft or bottom end. The segments are shipped with covers bolted on the ends. This is a shot of the right-hand center segment last June when it was still in Promontory, Utah, at Northrop Grumman's production facilities there, and you can see the ends are already covered and ready for shipment. The Artemis III motor segments were completed years ago. The final one went into storage back in mid-2022. Back here in late July 2026, we see an engineer inspecting around the circumference of the clevis end. The segments are rotated from horizontal to vertical in the rotation building, and then both ends are inspected as a part of EGS receiving the hardware. The segments are then staged on a transportation pallet for their movements in the Launch Complex 39 area at KSC. Well, the 8 apart from the 2 aft segments, which are processed differently. For Artemis III, those 2 were also shipped from Utah to KSC a couple of months earlier, back in April, and they are now stacked on Mobile Launcher 1 in Vehicle Assembly Building High Bay 3 after being integrated with the rest of the aft assembly hardware. The other 8 segments that are stacked on top were transported by rail car in early June. After breakover from horizontal to vertical, these receiving inspections, and being placed on a transportation pallet, they usually go into one of the RPSF's 2 surge buildings. In these shots, we see the center segments staged on their pallets on June 24th, seemingly ready to be moved to a surge building. For Artemis I and II, those 8 segments were temporarily stored in Surge 2. Since the boosters are stacked from the bottom up, the next pair would be the aft center segments, then the center segments, forward center, and finally the forward segments. And then the forward assembly with the nose cone and forward skirt top out each solid rocket booster. Shots of the 2 aft center segments taken on July 29th were then published the next day on Thursday, July 30th. The images themselves show the breakover process as performed on the right-hand aft center segment. This image shows the two cranes in the rotation building attached to the forward end on the left and the aft on the right. In this shot, the right aft center segment is being rotated to vertical, with what I'm presuming to be the left-hand aft center segment in the foreground. NASA Administrator Jarrett Isaacman posted a lower resolution image taken after the right aft center segment was staged on a transportation pallet behind the left-hand one. They are positioned in front of the high bay door in the rotation building for an eventual move, with the left-hand segment closest to the doorway. Under these circumstances, where stacking of the Artemis III SLS boosters started early in July, and these are the next two segments to be stacked, there is the possibility that instead of a trip to one of the RPSF surge buildings, they may go directly from the RPSF rotation building to the transfer aisle of the VAB for lifting and stacking on the mobile launcher in High Bay 3. In Artemis IV Watch this week, the news feed, such as it is, remains narrowly focused on imagery of progress with production of the two SLS Core Stage 4 propellant tanks. Since late April, we've seen all four of the top 4/5 of the stage at the Michoud Assembly Facility in New Orleans East, but more recently a series of milestones in assembly and production of the liquid oxygen tank in particular. The SLS Core Stage consists of the 5 elements shown in this graphic. From top to bottom, the forward skirt, liquid oxygen tank, inner tank, liquid hydrogen tank, and the engine section. The LOX tank was the final element to be structurally assembled for this 4th core stage build, with welding completed back in late May. Since then, personnel on prime contractor Boeing's integrated production team have completed plug welds, weld inspections, baffle installation, and most recently hydrostatic proof testing. Last week, we saw pictures of the tank being removed from that proof test cell on July 20th, and at the end of this past week, we saw shots of the LOX tank being moved from Building 110 to the final assembly area at MAF in Building 103. I've gone over the high-level version of the upcoming sequence of production steps for the two tanks in the last couple of videos. Post-proof test, the welds that those tests validate will need to be re-inspected, and then the inside and outside of the bare metal tanks will be cleaned in preparation for thermal protection system applications. The inside is cleaned in Cell E. These are pictures from 2 years ago of the Core Stage 3 propellant tanks. You can see that a stripe of primer is already applied on both ends of the tanks on the barrel, just inboard of the flanges. That's where the tank rats, the rotation, assembly, and transportation tools, will grip onto the tank. Those rats are integrated into the robotic spray systems that will eventually apply primer to the rest of the tank exterior in Cell P and then spray on foam insulation in Cell N. Beyond seeing Core Stage 4 production progress, as indicated in the flurry of imagery from the flurry of production milestones, a lot remains uncertain and in question about Artemis IV above and beyond the SLS Core Stage. I've noted that the Artemis IV SLS vehicle has the set of boosters, engines, and stages to fly, but no launch vehicle stage adapter to connect the stages, and no Orion stage adapter to connect the upper stage to Orion. NASA only paid for and built 3 sets of those. 2 sets have already flown, but adding this Artemis III low Earth orbit test flight means they need more connectors, and we still haven't heard how the space agency is going to handle that. With the end of 2028 getting closer and 3 launches on the schedule in less than 2.5 years, I have asked NASA for some information or clarification about buying the hardware they'll need. NASA will need that hardware months before the launch dates, which means there's even less time until the so-called need dates, but so far they still aren't willing to say anything more than they're thinking about how they will buy and or build those missing SLS pieces. The Artemis IV uncertainty extends more broadly than SLS, though. We've seen or heard little about the status or progress of the Artemis IV Orion spacecraft in assembly and test for the mission since a couple of images before Christmas of last year. The European service module was delivered back at that time, but almost all of the Orion assembly and production updates this year have focused on the Artemis III spacecraft, even though the schedules say NASA will urgently need not only that hardware, but the next SLS and Orion vehicles only months later. Better known unknowns, so to speak, revolve around questions about all the other hardware and development that needs to be completed for this first Artemis lunar landing attempt. When the new low Earth orbit mission was added with the Artemis III designation early this year, Artemis IV was also reassigned to that first NASA lunar landing of astronauts in this century. One of the things we've learned as 2026 has gone on is that this new Artemis III is less and less in the critical path for Artemis IV and the lunar landing. If Artemis III launches in the middle of next year, by that time there will be significantly less than a year until the currently scheduled launch date for Artemis IV. And if there are delays to Artemis III and no updates to the Artemis IV schedule in that time, even less time than that will be left in between Artemis III and Artemis IV, which is supposed to launch no later than March of 2028. That first quarter of 2028 date itself isn't much more than a year and a half away from right now in the middle of summer 2026, and Artemis III isn't looking like one of the big hurdles for Artemis IV. Questions about the status of lunar lander technology development, the schedule for sending lunar lander spacecraft to the moon for the first time, and development of the lunar surface spacesuits won't be answered until test flights and in-space demonstrations that take place outside of Artemis III, with crucial ones not likely to fly until after Artemis III. How close Axiom Space, Blue Origin, and SpaceX are to being ready for astronauts to use their equipment to land on and walk around the moon have been mysteries for much of the decade, and that may continue to be the case between now and the end of the decade. So we're getting imagery of some progress with the launch campaign for Artemis III and the SLS Core Stage production milestones for Artemis IV, but not many updates on the overall status. Here's what we're watching for Artemis III. We don't have a launch date, and we're still foggy about when the hardware under construction will be completed or delivered. The next milestones for SLS and Orion are engine installation into the core stage and the stacking or mating of the Orion crew and service modules. Both were forecast in the summer, and maybe we see them in August as the summer winds down. After that, the next big steps for them would be completion of those two elements. When the core stage is complete, Boeing will hand the stage over to EGS, who will mate it to the boosters and then get that partial stack ready for a tanking test out at Launch Pad 39B. NASA has suggested that could happen before the end of the year, but hasn't been any more specific. For Orion, the mated crew and service modules will go through a series of integrated functional tests, including a vacuum test, to verify its readiness for launch preps. Once that testing is complete, Lockheed Martin will install solar arrays, service module launch fairings, and other equipment, perhaps such as the new docking module that will make its first flight on Artemis III. Then Orion would also be handed over to EGS for launch processing. The last estimate for that milestone was around New Year's. Completion of those elements will drive the stacking schedule, and from that the readiness of the integrated Orion and SLS vehicle to support Artemis III. Axiom Space will be providing an EVA spacesuit mock-up for the mission, so that leaves the vehicles that Blue Origin and SpaceX will fly for Artemis III. We don't have any dates for any of the pre-launch milestones for the Blue Moon Mark II demonstrator or the version 3 Starship. For the two lunar landing missions that NASA has scheduled to fly in 2028, Artemis IV and V, there are big and little picture questions for both. I already ran through the questions about Artemis IV hardware and procurement status. For Artemis V, production of the SLS boosters and engines is under contract and in progress. But there are a lot of questions about the rest of the SLS elements. Some core stage parts and some production labor are paid for, but it's not clear about all the parts or all the labor. We haven't heard much about integrating Centaur V and SLS since March, and in that time the first flight of the pair was delayed from Artemis IV to Artemis V. A contract proposal was outlined back then, but there's been no announcement of a signed contract or contract agreement to fly the upper stage on SLS yet. There is also uncertainty about the performance of the integrated system, about structural loads and modifications to either Centaur or SLS, and about aerodynamic testing of different interstage options or a final selection about those. Based on recent reporting from the Government Accounting Office, the plan is still to modify Mobile Launcher 1 for the new SLS Centaur combination, but we haven't heard any details about compatibility studies, the scope of modifications to the ML, or what needs to change in the vehicle assembly building to accommodate Centaur, including changes to platforms in High Bay 3. Once those mobile launcher changes are complete, another question is whether those would go through a verification and validation process, especially if time is running out in 2028 to fly Artemis V before the end of that year. Big picture and obvious question is what happens if Artemis V slips into 2029. There were issues with the previously planned SLS upper stage transition, from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage to the exploration upper stage. That played a role in NASA finally deciding to give up on EUS and kill the project. There are questions about the new transition to Centaur V, but a lot of them are based on almost no information. Issues making that switch are rumors right now, and if those materialize or are revealed, that could be a factor in when Artemis V could launch. But the lunar landers are also a big area of uncertainty for that mission. For both Artemis 4 and 5, aside from a few pieces of hardware that are already in storage and ready to stack for launch, we have very little visibility into the current status across almost all the elements, and of course no schedules for any of them. That makes it difficult to tell how they came up with the advertised launch dates, whether or not the progress reported is keeping up with the schedule, and whether those dates in early 2028 and late 2028 remain realistic. For Artemis 4, we're watching a similar set of production milestones for the SLS and Orion elements still under construction, and another set of SLS stage adapters that have to be bought and built in not much more than a year. We're also watching for any clues about when the critical in-space tech demonstrations from SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Axiom Space will begin. And there are also questions about the Artemis 4 flight plans, now that there are different lunar lander options. NASA has not made it clear where Orion will meet Starship in Earth orbit. There seems to be almost an assumption in the vacuum of information that it's low Earth orbit, but we have also heard a highly elliptical Earth orbit suggested too. If Blue Moon is the lander, no one has specified where Orion will rendezvous and dock with it. NASA has clearly stated it won't be the gateway orbit, but that doesn't narrow things down very much. We've heard suggestions that Orion could fly to the elliptical lunar orbit that NASA evaluated as a one-off alternative to the gateway orbit. SLS and Orion can't support that, but no one has specified if that's what they're thinking right now. In other news and notes, there are a couple of post-flight pictures of the Artemis II heatshield in a presentation that was not widely publicized. NASA released a single image of the Artemis II base heatshield taken in the water after splashdown in the Pacific Ocean back on April 10th. However, nothing else was widely disseminated in the 3 months since then. The images embedded in this presentation slide are unfortunately low resolution, and I have asked NASA Public Affairs if they can publish something in a higher resolution, or full resolution. Or if those have already been published in full, where are they? Thanks as always for watching. Like and subscribe if you find these videos informative and want to find out every week what's happening with NASA's Artemis programs and plans. As usual, a big thanks to the members of this YouTube channel who are helping keep weekly Artemis coverage possible. There's more frequent videos, live streams, and updates if you're interested in joining. If you're willing to make a one-time donation to support what I do, I would really appreciate it. I put a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.